Hi, my name is Dan Lappin.
And I'm Kylie Schmidt. This is our podcast, Breaking Sales.
Breaking sales started for me over 20 years ago. I remember one particular experience that I had. I set this great appointment with a managing director for a huge law firm. They had 500 attorneys. I was so excited about the appointment that I decided to bring the owner of the company with me. As we drove down, I had in my head the compensation I was going to make, the reward I would get from acknowledgement as well, because this would be definitely our biggest client and most high-profile client. I had everything prepped. I knew exactly what I was going to share. I knew what the value proposition was. I knew what my messaging was, and I knew what pains that they probably needed to solve. As we walked into the appointment, we both sat in these huge leather chairs. I remember that. And the managing director of the law firm sat in this giant desk. As the appointment started, I was so pumped up, I took over. I told the managing director exactly why they would need the service, how it would impact them, both short and long term. I had different diagrams. I was very proud of the presentation I had created. As the meeting wound down, all I did was pitch, all I did was sell. I remember the managing director looking at us and going, "Hey, well, you've given me a lot to think about. I didn't know this type of service existed. Why don't you give me a call in about 2 weeks and we'll go from there." We left the meeting. As we walked outside, it was pouring rain, so we had to run through the rain. Ran to the car, and as we ran to the car, I asked the owner of the company, who I was with, Walter was his name, how'd it go? What did he think? Meanwhile, deep inside, I was pretty pumped up. I knew I had kicked ass. Walter looks at me, I'll never forget this, and he goes, "That was the worst sales appointment I've ever been on. That was a complete waste of time." I was stunned, absolutely stunned. Walter continued, "You didn't ask a single question. You have no idea how he feels about what you offered, what his perception is of it, how he would use it, how they would deploy it, what obstacles he anticipates he would have." And as Walter kept going on, I felt worse and worse. I remember looking down on the ground and there was this big crack in the pavement, pouring rain. I felt like crawling right into that crack. And the reason why? Walter was right. It was horrible. All I did was sell. All I did was pitch, promise, and present. Needless to say, whenever I called that managing partner back, never returned my call. I never got a hold of him again. And it was a great lesson for me to learn. And it's one I've built on for the past 20 plus years in sales. And that's how we got to the point with this podcast today, Breaking Sales. There are hundreds of sales podcasts you can listen to. Here's what you can expect to experience. First and foremost, we're going to deliver content. We're going to deliver content about sales and high performance. And we're going to bring them both together. You know, sales is a lot about the psychology of decision-making, the psychology behind change, the psychology behind prospecting, making introductions, building trust. All that will be covered. But then there's the high performance piece. I mean, we coach people who make 7 figures every single year. And what they do is very different. There's meditation. There's a mindset preparation. There's this whole study of neurosciences now. And how do you bring out your best and peak performance? How do you bring yourself to the point where your listening skills are far greater than any of your competition? How do you bring yourself to the point where you can ask questions that your competition won't even dream of? And that's what these top performers do. And we're going to talk about all that. We're also going to have interviews. We'll interview these top performers and talk about what is their processes, what are their routines, what are the things that they struggle with, what are the things that they've done to escalate themselves from just getting in sales and struggling through sales to becoming these top performers once again who make 6 and 7 figures. Those are the topics, those are the things that we're going to discuss on Breaking Sales.
I know we just threw a lot at you, so if some of this seems a little bit unfamiliar or scary, don't worry, you're not alone in this. We're all in it together. So be sure to interact with us and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.